Oh, heavy are the shoulders that wear the titles. I'm Jim Sterling, Pro Wrestling Eco Tag Team Champion, alongside the other members of my constellation. These are real wrestling belts, what have been legitimately won, which makes me the first full-time YouTube bloke to have wrestling titles that he didn't buy or make himself. Wrestlers who happen to have YouTube channels don't bloody count. I'm the first. I'm the first. Anyway, let's talk about something that isn't a first: Electronic Arts being shit. Electronic Arts has had to put out a graphic in order to let us know when we can play its upcoming generic Destiny wannabe, Anthem. I know what you're thinking. Why do we need graphics to let us know a video game's release date? It's just a release date, right? You say the day the game's coming out, and then we just know when the game's coming out because you said the day the game was coming out, right? Nope. Not in the world of AAA video games, an industry so perplexingly overcomplicated, Rube Goldberg would look at it and say, straighten it out, mate. Look at this shit. Look at this shit!
What? What is this?
This is Electronic Arts' Ways to Play Anthem table, letting you know the absurdly staggered release dates for their generic Destiny clone Anthem. See, if you pre-ordered the game, you got access to the demo. If you're subscribed to EA's Origin Access Premiere, you get to play the full game on February 15th. If you have EA Access Basic on PC or EA Access on Xbox One, you get to play 10 hours of it on February 15th. All other pre-orders get the game on February 22nd. Simple, right? If you've ever tried to follow Kingdom Hearts' story at least, this should be exceedingly simple in comparison. Now, can we just take a moment to appreciate that it's EA Help that tweeted this, the publisher's support team? Seems fitting. EA is being willfully confusing, and it's far from the first time that the game industry has pulled this shit. Despite being a bonkers right-wing conspiracy theorist these days, Dilbert cartoonist Scott Adams used to occasionally let relevant things spew out of his mouth. One such relevant thing was the coining of the term Confusopoly, a system where companies deliberately try and befuddle their customers in an effort to make product and price comparisons incredibly difficult. The mobile phone market is held up as a perfect example of a Confusopoly, where so many pricing plans and minutes availability and additional services drown anybody who just wants a bloody phone. The aim is to, as the practice suggests, confuse a customer into making choices based on gut feeling and emotion rather than a grasp of the facts. Overwhelm a customer with so many options, they just have to pick one in the end and hope for the best. What is an industry that talks about options all the time? Richard Cordray of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau put it best. If they can confuse the customer enough, then the customers won't necessarily know what choice they're making, and they can be talked into just about anything. What makes video games interesting is that a Confusopoly normally refers to a group of companies with similar products confusing you, whereas in the game industry, it can often be one company with all of its similar products confusing you. They're doing it on their own, and the fact that other companies are doing it as well only adds to it. Now, we know from years of studying and discussing the AAA game industry on this show that publishers spend most of their time trying to convince us to buy quite literally anything, up to and including fucking $20 cosmetic skins, EA! What are you doing? Fuck off, Anthem. Fuck right off with that. We also know that staggered release dates have become a new favourite method of pushing not just pre-orders, but more expensive versions of games. Pre-order early access, or PEA, is the latest psychologically manipulative trick of AAA publishing headfuck artists, with many major games now offering the ability to play early, provided you pre-ordered in advance. It's been a hot part of the industry's pathological pre-order culture for a few years now, and has benefited the likes of Electronic Arts and especially Ubisoft. It's something that I expect will only become more commonplace since it's proven to be so successful, and it's not hard to see why. I trust we're all aware of the term FOMO by now. FOMO, fear of missing out, is a phenomenon describing the social media age we live in, where so much is happening so quickly, so many events and fashions and trends and memes, that people become terrified they're missing something if they're not glued to their phones and fucking around on Twitter or Instagram at all times, observing and and contributing to whatever the discourse is at that fleeting moment. This is how that Fire Festival managed to hoodwink so many people into attending a music festival that basically didn't exist, and the same logic applies to massive video game releases. Everybody wants to be part of the initial game launch, to share their hot takes on Twitter, or Instagram, or Kick, or TikTok, or Woof, or PlayPlace, or Grundle, or Havisham, or Fabula Nova Crystallis, or Dirty Bernard, or Trickster, or Beef, or Monkey. Pre-order early access makes launch day customers feel like they're missing out on the hot takes and discussion and fun by making them play after everybody else. It's really quite brilliant. Devious, but brilliant. And it has succeeded, especially when it comes to flogging those multiple special editions that accompany most so-called AAA games now. Because the game industry is the way it is, simply pre-ordering games isn't enough for them anymore. Some companies have started gating the early access, not just behind pre-orders, but pre-orders of specifically more expensive versions. Ubisoft does this on the regular, with Assassin's Creed Odyssey being the latest of their games to offer several days head start, provided you pre-ordered the Gold, Ultimate, Spartan, Pantheon, or Medusa edition. Fucking hell. Thanks to early access leverage, the game industry has seen a marked increase in special edition sales. But while it works, it's also a mess that requires customers to be on their toes more than ever to know exactly what they're buying and what they're gonna get. Well, in fact, it works because it's a mess. We now have Ubisoft using early access to push half a dozen special editions, and EA using it to push subscriptions to its fucking EA Origins service, both of them requiring charts and tables that most people are going to look at and end up totally bemused by. It's exploitation of FOMO married to the aforementioned Confusopoly, a Confusomopoly, and it's making publishers even more money and contributing to their unsustainable growth that cannot last forever and will only lead to layoffs on the ground floor of the hierarchy once they hit the ceiling on it and publishers cut costs to keep the cash flow looking high before moving on to the next get-richer-quicker scheme. Of course, one not need to have the leverage of early access to knowingly create some carefully crafted confusion. Watch Dogs became notorious for, among other things, its jaw-droppingly convoluted array of special editions and bonus items and tat. This by now famous spreadsheet laid out just how sprawling and mind-melting Watch Dogs' complete sales pitch was. In fact, I've been looking at it and sharing this chart for years, and I still couldn't tell you which editions got what content or what the content was, because my eyes glaze over every time I fucking look at it. And if that's true for me, it can only be truer for less involved customers. For such a customer with a more disposable income, they would be likely to just say fuck it and stump for the most expensive version they can find to ensure their best chance of having a complete package. It must have worked because Ubisoft has never stopped doing it since. The shamelessly contrived spreadsheet was back for Watch Dogs 2 with all manner of DLC and props and bonuses for the game's Deluxe Edition, Gold Edition, San Francisco Edition, Wrench Junior Robot Collector's Pack, and the return of Dead Set Collector's Case. Jesus Christ. With no one version having everything in it. Likewise, The Division 2 has a Standard Edition, Gold Edition, Ultimate Edition, Dark Zone Definitive Collector Edition, and Phoenix Shield Collector Edition. Jesus Christ. I mean, pretty much every major Ubi title has half a dozen versions now. Each release a labyrinthine adventure in trying to work out what the fuck you're actually getting for your money. But Ubisoft may have outdone itself with Steep, because old games going on sale can't even be safe. Frankly, I don't even want to comprehend what they did with this because it makes my head hurt trying, so I'm gonna just read the description provided by Redditor LK Marley. The Gold Edition of Steep, Game Plus Year 1 Pass plus X Games Pass, is currently on sale on Steam. However, this is not to be confused with the Gold Edition that was originally available, Steep Plus Season Pass, or the Olympic Gold Edition, Steep Plus Olympic DLC. And just to obfuscate things further, the Season Pass has been renamed to the Year 1 Pass, but only in the Gold Bundle. And just to obfuscate things more, one of the Season Pass DLCs is only available in the Season Pass, the Adrenaline Pack. There is also both an X Games Pass and X Games DLC, and the current Gold version is missing the Olympic DLC. If you buy the current Gold Bundle, you still need to buy the Olympics to have a complete game. If you bought the original Gold Bundle, you still need to buy the X Games Pass and Olympics DLC to have a complete game. If you bought the Olympics Olympics Gold bundle, you still need to buy the Season Pass and the X Games Pass to have a complete game, and there's no way of buying everything all in one bundle, and what the fuck? Jesus fucking Assmaster! There is no way this is accidental. You do not habitually be this overly complex by mistake. Just ask Tetsuya Nomura, he'll tell you. This is to confound you and addle your senses, which is perfectly exemplified by Ubisoft ensuring it's difficult or even impossible to get all of the available content and extras in one convenient package. I fear this is a situation that will only get more ridiculous as time goes on, especially as other publishers decide to join the feeding frenzy. Warner Bros. Interactive, the scumbag shithead publisher that often flies under the radar, has already been playing around with Confusopoly's. Here's IGN's complete guide to Middle-earth, Shadow of War's pre-order bonuses. Microsoft is in on the action too. Here's IGN's complete guide to Sea of Thieves pre-order bonuses, because that's the farcical, almost comedic situation we find ourselves in now. IGN publishing walkthroughs, fucking FAQs for the simple purchase of a video game. And this ain't the newest phenomenon in the industry. Many years ago, publishers used to offer different pre-order bonuses depending on which retailer you pre-ordered from. I'm sure it'll still happen here or there, but last generation it was a huge thing. They loved it. Amazon, Best Buy, GameStop, you could get different bonuses for the same game by pre-ordering at different places. And if you had a fear of, say, missing out, you may very well be tempted to buy a game multiple times to get everything, or you'd certainly be worrying about picking the right retailer and getting the best item. The so-called AAA game industry is becoming incapable of doing the one thing it exists to do, just making and selling games. How about that, game industry? Just make and sell a fucking game. And anybody who just wants to buy a fucking game is getting fucked. The rise of contrived convolution in the game industry is not a mistake. It's yet another example of how the word enough has no place in the vocabulary of major game publishers, because it's never enough. There's no such thing as enough. These companies continue to rake in billions and billions of dollars, sell not one, not two, but between 3 and 6 versions of a single game, with the inclusion of season passes and DLC and microtransactions, all of which themselves have only gotten less valuable and more greedy, from multiple season passes per game to ludicrously expensive character skins to gambling mechanics. It's dizzying. I follow the industry for a living, and the sheer volume of bullshit attached to these games is dizzying even for me. And the worst thing is, because it's the game industry, I know it can only get worse. Every time I think I've seen this industry at its most ludicrous, it does something even more fucked up. And that works just fine for them. Because if they can confuse the customer enough, then the customers won't necessarily know what choice they're making, and they can be talked into just about anything. Hell, some of us have even bought Anthem. There's no doubt that our engagement with social media, our need to be part of the discourse, has been weaponized against us by companies out to make as much money as they can from us. I don't think there's any doubt of that at all. And at the risk of sounding alarmist about social media, that fear of not being part of whatever the next big thing is, it might be something we could all work on tempering a little. But I don't want to be too alarmist, because if you do watch the both rather excellent Fire Festival documentaries on Netflix and Hulu, the Hulu one, while being a very good look at the con merchant behind the whole thing, the music festival that basically didn't exist but got people to pay out the nose for, that talks a little bit more about social media, its influence on us. It can come across as a little bit alarmist and a little bit too much the millennials, but it's well worth looking into. And I can't say I'm immune from it either. I always want to be part of the discourse. I mean, hell, my job is to talk about the latest things in video games. So I will be getting Anthem to play it and talk about it. So they've suckered me in, because my job as a creator of content is to, be part of the discourse. So they get me worrying about not being there, because we as in the media have to be there with our YouTube videos, our reviews, our live streams. It's all working in their favour because of FOMO, and they're bolstering that with a Confusopoly. So just be on the lookout, be on your guard. I've said that over the years many, many times, and it's always more true than it was the last time I said it. Be on your guard, look out for yourself and your wallet, because publishers like EA and Ubisoft sure as shit won't. Thank God for me, and my word, these belts are so heavy. They're so heavy. Ah, oh, they're weighing me down. Help! Help! Mine!